Friends, we have gathered here to praise our Creator and to witness to our faith as we celebrate the life of Ellen Sinclair. We come together in grief, acknowledging our human loss. May God grant us grace that in pain we may find comfort, in sorrow we may find hope, and in death, resurrection. Let us pray. Creator of the universe, of humankind, and of unfailing love, today we have gathered as family, friends, constituents, and co-workers of our loved one who departed this world. It is not easy for us to assemble here today, for there are still so many unanswered questions, so many uncertainties, and so many broken hearts. But as we begin this memorial service and honor our dear loved one, let the unconditional love that you have showered upon Ellen during her life fill this service. Help us to love others unconditionally, like our beloved did when she was with us on this earth. Comfort and strengthen us in the days ahead, and give us your peace that surpasses all understanding. Amen. Our Old Testament reading, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8, followed by our New Testament reading by Maura DeLore. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
A first reading of Paul to the Corinthians. If I speak in the tongues of humans and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of wrongs or does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see only a reflection, as in a mirror. But then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, that I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love remain. These three, and the greatest of these is love.
We will now have shared memories by Leo and Liam Sinclair, followed by Paul Nofer.
Hello, everybody. I thank everybody for joining us here today. But first, I can introduce myself. Again, I'm Leo. This is Liam. Ellen used to say that we capitalize on all the L's. I first met Ellen during the summer of 1987. We both worked for a small company in Philadelphia. It's funny because Ellen had worked for this company part-time twice the year before, and then I came back that second summer. She was working there. I'd worked there previously, 3 years previously to that, and I knew everybody there. Everybody knew me. And I remember one day I came into the lunchroom, and everybody who knows me, I looked at everybody and I said, hey, would anybody like to go to lunch today? Actually, I said, would anybody like to join me to lunch in the park? And Joan, who was a good friend of mine, she's from Jamaica, wonderful accent. She looked at Ellen and she said, I'm pretty sure he's talking to you. So I was. Joan went on to say that she knew I was ultra shy at that time, and she said, Leo has a problem talking to people. So Ellen's like, sure, I'll go. And we basically went to our favorite park in Philadelphia. It was called Love Park. When we used to go to the park, my two cousins, Maureen and Margaret, they used to catch us in there all the time. And I emphasize the word catch because they pretty much knew we were dating. And Ellen would always just be laughing, thinking, where else can we go? We spent the rest of the summer, whenever we could, every lunch we went outside. If it was sunny, we were there. And did it, every night if we could. Ellen went on to go to paralegal school, and I returned back to school to finish my education. Without Ellen, I think I would have taken even more years of getting it done. She helped me push through to get it done. Finally, in November of 1990, we got married. This isn't written down, but I have to say, prior to getting married, when we got engaged, and I won't get into details about that, but to me that was the most special night because it was the first night I ever wore a tuxedo, and I purposely asked her to marry me then. The very next morning, she woke up. We hadn't even picked a date for the wedding. She called me up and said, I have the date. I'm like, what do you mean you have the date? She goes, I dreamt it. I believe in divine intervention, and I believe that, somebody gave her that date. We looked and found out, sure enough, that was a Saturday, November 3rd, 1990. That was her day. She picked it, and we took it. She loved the fall. There was irony to that. That day was like about 88 degrees. It might as well have been summer. Ellen spent 7 years of her life working as a paralegal. She loved it. Her whole family was in the legal field, and she felt that that was where she wanted to go. However, after being in that business for 7 years, she really had a true desire, and that was education. She wanted to be a teacher. So she quit being a paralegal. Well, actually, the law firm folded before she had a chance to quit. Again, divine providence. So Ellen then went back to school for teaching, got her teaching certificate, and spent 26 years teaching. She basically loved one thing more than anything in the world. Kindergarten was her favorite class. When she was teaching kindergarten, that was her heaven. Then they had pushed her to first grade, and at first she was kind of like, no, I don't want to be there, but then she got to love it even more. Bounced back and forth, and then one thing I want to emphasize, every student of hers was an extension of us. It was another child for us, okay? But then we had Liam, and Liam was our miracle child, our blessing. Ellen had a miscarriage 2 years prior to that. So when Liam was born, it was a miracle. I went so far off script now, bear with me 1 second. Well, I do want to make one point clear. As a teacher, Ellen loved what she did. The problem was education had changed over these 26 years. What had been a fun job, the fun disappeared when administration took over and basically ran the classroom. That really was very difficult on Ellen. At this point, I want to take this time to let Liam say some words before I finish my thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I know he already said this, but I would just like to reiterate that we are thankful that you all are gathered here today for the memory of my mom. And speaking of memory, it's difficult, I would almost say impossible, to pick out a specific memory out of my 22 years of having her as my mom. I guess since Monday, I've just heard nothing but good things about her, and some of the words that I've heard describe her are caring, wonderful, and passionate. And so I think when it comes to how I remember my mom, those things definitely stand out. And I'm not very good at picking out specific memories as you are, Dad, but I do know that she was very happy to have me home, and that all she kept talking about was how she couldn't wait for me to get home, and that when I was, she just kept reiterating that she was glad to have me home for the spring break. And I'm glad to know that I was able to be here. I guess these are challenging days, and they will be. And there's not going to be an easy day after today. I think we all know this in the back of our minds, but it's important that we hold each other up when we need it. And even no matter where we are, whether that be halfway across the country from each other or not, and that we are faced with a choice of how we want to remember my mom. And that can be good, it can be bad, it can be a combination of the two. But I ask everyone to remember not how she passed, but how she lived, and that her life truly defined who she was, as well as her actions. And I think that her actions spoke louder than words. And if there's one thing that I had to finish with, it's that there's something that she always told me and always reminded me of, and that was to always be the driver and not the passenger. And I've truly taken that to heart.
Okay, this may not be short, but these are some things that just jumped out at me. As Liam said, Ellen was full of life. She would light up a room. She was truly a bright star in any kind of instance she was there. Shortly after Ellen retired, I had basically a job that I had up in Buffalo, and occasionally I had to go to Buffalo. I left that company and found a company closer to home in Lancaster. I'm going to say this again, you may not like it, but divine providence. COVID happened, and when I landed this new job, my boss basically said that I get to work remote from home. Ellen and I were shocked. I thought for sure I'll be driving to Lancaster every day, but when he turned around and said, you get to work from home, Ellen and I just said, okay, we know what we're going to do. We had visited Wendy the year before for Halloween, and we knew that we wanted to move down to Rehoboth. We had always talked about it. We always wanted to move down here, retire down here. So we decided that she was retired, and I was in a position where I can work from home. So we came down and started looking for a house. We eventually found a house, and we had to have it built, so it was another 6 months. It was like basically, hey, why not? Let's just go. One side note to that is, I think everybody else from North Jersey and New York and everywhere else decided at the same time to come on down here too. So, but please understand, we had to one up on you. We've been coming down here for over 25 years. If we didn't travel abroad, we came here. That's basically the gist of that. In regards to traveling abroad, we traveled to Ireland once, only once, believe it or not. My mother's from Ireland, and we've been there once. But we've been to Scotland twice, and of course we always had to go to Germany. That was in her blood. First time we went to Scotland, June of 2000. It's a special time of the year for us because, like I said, Ellen had a miscarriage 2 years prior. It was devastating. When Ellen found out she was pregnant, we had already planned to go to Scotland, and we worried at first, should we go? Should we not go? We said, we're going to go. So, frankly, Liam made it to Scotland. He was just in vitro. And on that trip, there were so many exciting moments. I couldn't even delve into them. But there was one really particular thing that jumped out at me that I will never forget. Because Ellen was pregnant, what's the one thing a woman has to do when she's pregnant? She's always got to make a pit stop, right? Of course, she always had to make a pit stop anyway, but it was even more so. We were going through the Highlands of Scotland, worked our way up this hillside, might as well have been a mountainside to me, and Ellen had to go to the bathroom. We're like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we thought, we're going to have to pull over at one point to have her just go on the side of the road. We went around a bend, and as if out of nowhere, a bathroom popped up. It was there in the middle of nowhere. You come out and you can see for miles, and there's this building. It's the bathroom. Oh, Ellen was excited. She rushes in, and she comes out happier rushing in. And I thought, why are you even happier? She sat down and she said, I've never seen such a clean bathroom. I basically said the reason why it was clean because no one had ever been in there. So, okay, during the second week of that same trip, again, another one of those bends, we were going to a little town called Nairn. As Ellen used to say, Nairn, because the main road ran by, it was almost like a highway. Nairn was off the beaten path, and if you didn't catch it, you would miss it. But Nairn was actually a very popular little town. It was, at the time we were there, they actually had the golfing tournament there. So we were staying at a bed and breakfast that Charlie Chapman stayed there so many times. So it was special. And when we had booked our room there, they pretty much said that we had to have dinner that night with them. It was our first night there, and it's like the first time there you had to have dinner with the host. Well, as we came around that bend heading to Nairn, we saw a shopping center. And in that shopping center was a Pizza Hut, American Pizza Hut. And Ellen looked at me, and I have to get this right because I don't ever forget the way she said it. She goes, that is where we're going to eat tonight. And I looked at her and said, but? No, there was no but. She said this. She grew up getting tired of eating salmon and can't you say the word now? No, it's L-O. It's pronounced with an O. Langostinos.
Langoustines?
Yeah, langoustines, thank you. Langoustines are basically what we call the poor man's lobster, okay? Ellen used to joke how they used to stare up at her, and she didn't like that. So she said, we're having American pizza tonight. And I looked at her, and the look in her face was like, there's no way I'm going to say no. So I was like, okay, we did. So we did. When we returned back to Scotland in 2015, again, another special moment for me, for Ellen. We've traveled to Ireland first. We had a wonderful time there. Loved the west coast the most. But then we went to Scotland, to Glasgow, Scotland. That's where my father was from. That's where all my cousins were living. We had a dinner in a restaurant. It was about, around 10 o'clock at night. It was closing. But we had the restaurant to ourselves. I don't know how many of us there were, 15 maybe.
It was us and your cousins.
Right. Well, about 15 people, and the guy didn't care how late we were open. The sun was going down at 10 o'clock at night, just setting. We didn't catch on. The sun's going down. It must only be 7 o'clock. No, it was 10 o'clock. But Ellen got in a discussion with my cousins. Now, if anybody's ever been to Glasgow, you understand. Most people, you can't understand people from Glasgow. Their accent is just, incredible. She got in this debate with my cousin because he had a son named Dylan. And he couldn't say Dylan the way Ellen wanted him to say it. I think we sat there for a good 20 minutes, and Ellen kept saying, it's Dylan. And he kept trying to say it was Dylan in the Scottish accent. Ellen couldn't understand. So my cousin said, the American folk singer. And Ellen goes, Dylan! And it's like, yeah, that's what I've been saying. And Ellen's like, you're saying it wrong. So, yeah, to me, that will always be in my mind. One last point, one last memory. When we first were dating, Ellen came to my house. All my brothers and sisters are in the house, and Ellen sat down on the couch. Maura on one side, Stephen on the other side. I'm pretty sure Brian was in the room at the time. I said, I got to run upstairs and get something to break down. I go upstairs, I grabbed something to come downstairs, and the look on her face was something horrible happened. And I'm like, are you okay? She goes, yeah. She goes, your brothers and sisters were here talking. You talked too fast. And I didn't understand one word that they said. And she was so like I gotta get out of here. So it was, for years we laughed about that. It was so precious to me. Okay, I'll finish this off now. This to me is something I have to say. I want to leave you all with a very important thought. Do not take life for granted. But more importantly, do not take your spouse for granted. It's a surefire way to make her feel unloved. And I'm sorry for that. I miss her so much. And I always loved her dearly. That's all I have to say.
We thank Leo and Liam for their shared memories. We'll now have a solo by Mr. Ron Parks. You want it? Followed by this solo, we will have shared memories by Mr. Paul Milford. I'm sorry.
Soon we'll come to the end of life's journey, and perhaps we'll never meet anymore, till we gather in heaven's bright city, far away on that beautiful shore. If we never meet again this side of heaven, as we struggle through this world and its strife, there's another meeting place somewhere in heaven, by the side of the river of life, where the charming roses bloom forever, and where separations come no more. If we never meet again this side of heaven, I will meet you on that beautiful shore. Oh, they say we shall meet by the river, where no storm clouds darken the sky. And they say we'll be happy in heaven, in that sweet and glorious by and by. Oh, so often we are parted with sorrow. Benedictions often quicken our pain, but we never shall know sorrow in heaven. God be with you till we meet again. If we never side of heaven. As we struggle through this world and its strife, there's another meeting place somewhere in heaven, by the side of the river of life.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Ellen loved that song. And so thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know, Ellen sang in the ensemble. And so thank you so much, the ensemble. The first song was beautiful, and I know another one's coming. Thank you so much for taking care of her and giving her so much joy and for being here today for us. Appreciate it so, so much. Thank you also to Janice, who is Ellen's dear friend, next door neighbor, and just close confidant and dear friend, and thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who made this possible today. My name's Paul Nofer. I'm Ellen's older brother. I was 3 years older than Ellen. I remember right now the day she was born. I was right next to my cousin Frank. He probably doesn't remember this memory, but we were waiting to hear on the phone that she had been born, and I remember that day. I always saw my role in my relationship with Ellen to be her big brother, her protector, and to give her advice on life's decisions and things. And Ellen saw her role as telling me to keep my opinions to myself. And that's sort of how we rolled for years and years and years. She had a real independent spirit, as a child, and I'm sorry, I'm working my way through this. I know that anything I say can't be worthy of her, so I'm doing my best. But as a child, her independent spirit came out in various ways. When my mother used to tell the story, when she'd call Ellen in from the backyard, Ellen would come in, but the way she would get there was by she'd walk a couple steps, she'd do a couple cartwheels, she'd move in this direction, she'd do somersaults, and she'd get there, but she did it her way. Another good story of Ellen when she was young was when she was just 5 years old. We used to go up to the Pocono Mountains. We lived in the Philadelphia area, in the Pocono Mountains, to a Lutheran association, and stay there for a lot of the summer. And there was a big lake and a beach on the lake. And Ellen, you all know Ellen loves beaches. And to get to swim way out to the raft that was, the permanent raft thing that was set up outside, you had to pass a test. And nobody else 5 years old is passing this test, but Ellen was going to pass it. And you had to swim, and if I can create this image for you, I think my best story is there was one dock on one end, one dock on the other, and you had to swim back and forth a number of times without touching either dock, but you had to get by them to be able to pass the test. So everyone was watching with great interest. Can this 5-year-old do it? And my dad's probably out on one end of the dock to dive in to save her if she can't. And she kept swimming, and then she would slow down, everyone's watching, and then she'd pull up and wave to everybody and everyone would cheer, and then she'd get back, and she went back and forth. Ellen was a really good athlete. Most people don't know that, but she was a really good athlete as a kid, and that's the cartwheels, the gymnastics. She played soccer and softball and always made the all-star team, which sometimes frustrated me because I wasn't making it. And And she did give it up. She wasn't as much into sports as I was, despite my advice to do sports. But she was quite the athlete. Her independent spirit also made her stand up for herself and others. And she, for example, in their home up in the Philadelphia suburbs, Leo and Ellen are famous for their fights for the community. You can Google them. They fought against the deer hunt running through the neighborhoods where kids were. They fought against a pipeline coming through, and Ellen was interviewed on Channel 6 News, and they fought the battle and they won it together, and very impressive. She also fought, and Leo made some reference to this, and I'm going to say it. She fought against age discrimination in her school district, and she won, and it was really impressive, and she knew how to stand up for herself and others, as I said. Other attributes, I'll move on from independent spirit now. Ellen was these are different things Ellen was great at. Ellen was great at friendship. Always, as a kid, she just had friends. As she got to her, little older, college age and everything, she was always in everyone's wedding. She's always everyone's bridesmaid. She's always picked to be one of the friends. Friendship is a really key component of happiness in life, and Ellen really knew how to crush it. And she has a lot of lifelong friends as a result, and it was a great aspect of her life. And you would talk to her friends. Ellen also got it right about friendship, is she came through when it mattered most. She was really good at that. Ellen was great at motherhood. You just saw it with Liam up here talking. Ellen was extremely dedicated. I won't take you through all the details, but she was there all the way for every little detail. And she's got a son sitting here who's smart and kind and respectful and passionate, and he's amazing, and it's a tribute to Ellen. Ellen, I think kindness is really important in life. I think you're measured by defined how you treat others. And Ellen was great at that. I think she carries the great tradition of my family. My grandfather on my mother's side was just wonderful and just so good to people. And my mother was, not that others were slackers or terrible at it, but these were princes of kindness, and Ellen carried that on too. Last night I was looking at a lot of photos of her. It was really hard to do. But as I looked at the photos from different points of her age, and Wendy's here has set up all these photos, you can look at it. There's a lack of pretense in Ellen from when she's very young all the way through. She's just kind-hearted and looking at other people. It's just part of her soul, and it's really part of her. She's an amazing teacher. It's been mentioned. I'll just quickly say that my older sister, Jane, is a child psychologist, and she went in and watched Ellen teaching, and she said it was mesmerizing. Ellen was just great at it, and a lot of her colleagues have told us the same. Ellen was also great at joy and humor, and everyone knows that, like from the crowd here has seen it. She loved music, and she loved being joyful. And you can look in her house that she finally created this house down here that was more her personality. With her other house, a lot of it was like hand-me-down furniture from my parents, sort of like dark wood, colonial, everything. Down here, she created a beach house, and it's full of whimsy. She's got like these big cows and stuff like that on like a cardboard cow. I don't know. But she's got that, and it's just very peaceful, and she's just really joyful. And I admire that so much about her. I'm just going to leave you with 3 memories to end with. And if I forgot to thank everyone, I think I thanked everyone, but if I forgot, thank you. I think I started with that. A few memories. 5 years ago, Ellen and I became really close. We'd always, been good brother and sister, and no one would describe us as anything other than that, but we became really close. And she started to listen to my advice. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the same time when I started to listen to her. We really found the bond. And the event that really triggered it was my dad being really sick. And Ellen just came through big time. And I really appreciated it. We both, we need to go to tons of doctor's appointments. There's just tons of things. And so many people in this room, I'm sure, have experience dealing with elderly parents. It's just really hard. And my father's personality was changing and becoming more difficult. And Ellen and I would talk, and I'd say, how do you handle it when this happens? And how do you handle it that? And she often had a way of handling it with humor and with grace. And she also, stood up to my dad and stood up to the doctors and stood up. She was great. And our discussions of that led to discussions of other things in our lives, and we became really close, and it was great, and I was really lucky for that. A second memory, and I'm almost done, is my wife Connie and I had dinner with her in Boston just recently. That's where we live and where Liam is in college and at Emerson and crushing it and about to graduate. And Ellen had taken care of Liam or whatever and went out to dinner with us, and she was just so full of joy. She was talking about her life here and singing and all the personalities, and I was just joking with some of them before, and I didn't remember all the details. Connie remembers all the details. I don't remember the details. I just was sitting there just taking in the emotions of it, that Ellen was just so happy. And and the third and last memory is of my sons. Both my sons are here today, Alex and Sam. You'll hear Alex is going to do a reading in a little bit. And by the way, the Maura who was up before, that's Ellen's sister-in-law and Leah's sister. But Alex's wedding was last fall, and I got up to the last time I got up to speak in front of my family publicly was toasting, my son Alex and his wonderful wife Becca. And I looked out, and there was Ellen was at a table holding hands with my wife Connie and my other sister Jane. And that speech was super important to me, and they were just all supporting me, and Ellen was so full of joy, and I just can picture her face right now from that moment and looking out, and she was just so happy for me and everyone in the family. And I've heard at the wedding, so many people have been writing to me since she passed away about how, wow, the memory of the wedding and all the conversations they had with her and how happy and joyful she was and so happy for us. And I'm looking out now, and of course, and it's not the same, but I see her. I still see her. I see her right there in Liam. I see her in all the different people in our family. I see her in my cousin Frank. I see her in my sons. And I see her in her friends. And I see her in her good friends. And I see them in here because I know how happy she was here. And she is here. She's looking back at me. And I just want to speak to her for a second and just say, I can't say it all, but I can just say thanks for caring about me. And just thanks so much for being a really sweet soul on this planet. Thank you.
We thank Mr. Paul Nofer for his shared memories. We'll now have shared memories by Wendy Shriver, a reading by Mr. Alex Nofer, followed by Camp Rehoboth Ensemble.
Hello. I'm one of Ellen's best friends. I first want to say thank you, Camp Rehoboth. Thank you all, Doug, for making this happen. Thank you, Janice. Thank you for being here. And my sincere condolences to you, Liam, and Leo and Paul and all of her family, and those of you that are joining us on Zoom, including her sister who could not be with us, Jane. Thank you. Thank you all for being here, all her friends and co-workers and my friends and my family and everybody who knew her and is here to celebrate her. Thank you. Thank you for being here to honor my dear friend, Ellen. All right, before we get started, we're gonna Ellenize this a little bit. So we're gonna put our sparkle on. So we have that. And I have to do something because Ellen would not recognize me dressed up like this, much like the rest of you did not. So I gotta put my Ellen face on. And I gotta put my sparkle on. All right. We're gonna Ellenize this now. All right, I'm here today to honor Ellen and to talk to you about platonic love, unicorns, and sparkling in the shit out of life. I met Ellen 40 years ago, fresh off the plane from the Midwest, to be the nanny next door to her parents' home in Society Hill, Philadelphia. She grabbed me coming out of the house one day. I was straddling 2 kids in a stroller, literally grabbed me by my arm with her loud exclamation of, "Hi, I'm Ellen. Let's be friends." And we have been ever since. She liked to believe she corrupted this Midwestern girl, forgetting I was born and raised on the East Coast. Taking me to my first bar when I was turned 21, making me watch pornography the same night. And most recently telling me to shut my Catholic school girl gaping mouth while she made me watch Magic Mike at our personal fondue party for 2. We laughed, we cried, we bitched, complained, and played together. She was the yin to my yang. We were Thelma and Louise to a T. It was the last movie we watched a week and a half ago. She never again refused a concert after not wanting to pay money to go to Live Aid with me in Philly during our early days. I even talked her into Farm Aid recently, and neither of us like country. Sharing infinite texts and Instagram sayings each day, with calls on our rides to work, setting us up for our day, to ending our day with our list of "you wouldn't believe what the f happened to me today," as we unloaded life's worries, only ending the call because we were too tired to talk anymore. Every day the same, laughing, crying, bitching, planning. Yeah, all of you should be really nice to me because I know a lot more about you than you know about me. And even though our lives took us to separate states, we never lost touch. When I moved here 4 years ago, she squealed with delight because she was going to retire and move down here too. 2 years later, she did. And from that point, we were inseparable. Our home goods, our brush factory visits became part of our weekly routine. That woman could shop. And she always joked how I loved spending her money as she'd leave with some favored pillow or piece of furniture, 11 feet long credenza. Have you ever seen them? And I didn't spend a thing. We put her new house together piece by piece, with every shopping adventure dotted by each little tchotchke that remains in her home today. But shopping wasn't just about purchasing. Shopping was an adventure for Ellen. It was a way to talk about future plans, to laugh about other people's stupidity, and to forget the burdens that pained her. It was our sandbox. Shopping was a way of unleashing newfound independence, making choices, finding preferences, discovering herself. And she wasn't just generous with herself. She gave of her time, her money, her talents to many. She sparkled the shit out of everything. Now, if I haven't dragged on too long, let's talk about talking. Ellen talked nonstop, sometimes over me. But I didn't care, because I realized she needed a listener. She yearned to be seen, heard, and encouraged to spread her wings. She held me up, but I erased her negative thoughts. She needed help to unveil her sparkle that had become dampened. And she did. She was bigger than life, bringing you into her world of smiles and hope. Every stranger was a friend she hadn't met yet. Over the past year, she has become the butterfly we knew was there. She shed beliefs of I can't to become I will. She took more risks, applying for jobs, learning new trades, joining groups to share her talents, flying by herself for the first time, and agreeing to every new adventure I posed, which sometimes was just taking her out and helping her be less direction lexic. Or seal watching in the winter, or heading on the road, topping down in wind and heron, which is why I usually ended up like this, and assuming her life as an individual. She was blossoming. And it showed. She joined the Camp Rehoboth Choir, and even though there were some rough spells of falling off the risers, she didn't let her stumbles cloud her desire for shining brightly. She knew she could sing her way to happiness, and she did. She was happy, very happy. Ellen taught me about real love. She was always there for me and loved everyone unconditionally. She could be angry with you, but not for very long, because she truly believed in everyone's goodness. She extended this love to my own children, as she deeply celebrated their becoming, as she did her own beloved Liam. Liam, you are her everything, and nothing brought her more joy than being your mom. Ellen liked to believe I was her rock, that it was me that kept her going. But I know what all of you know. It was her. Her sparkly self was penetrating. You wanted more. We were captivated by her spunk, her charm. Not having her here, just one more day, has broken my heart. But I want you to remember 3 things. Platonic love is real. So get out there and love each other. Gnomes and dolphins will be everywhere now. And we all need to get better at sparkling the shit out of life. So I leave you with a poem from one of Ellen's favorite poets, Donna Ashworth. You don't move on after loss, but you must move with. You must shake hands with grief, welcome her in, for she lives with you now. Pull her a chair at the table and offer her comfort. She's not the monster you first thought her to be. She is love. And she will walk with you now, stay with you now, peacefully, if you let her. And on the days when your anger is high, remember who she represents. Remember, grief came to you, my friend, because love came first. Love came first. And for that, we are all blessed to have had my dear Ellen in our lives to learn more about love. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hi, my name's Alex, and I'm very proud to say I'm Ellen and Leo's nephew and Liam's cousin. Been asked to give a reading also from Donna Ashworth called You. We feel like this perfectly encapsulates Ellen. If every single person who has liked you in your lifetime were to light up on a map, it would create the most glitteringly beautiful network you could imagine. Throw in the strangers you've been kind to, the people you've made laugh or inspired along the way, and that star-bright network of you would be an impressive sight to behold. You're so much more than you think you are. You have done so much more than you realize. You're trailing a bright pathway that you don't even know about. What a thing. What a thing indeed.
You may wonder why we're wearing sequins one in the afternoon. But my jackets Ellen was fascinated with the jackets and honestly could not stop doing this. So she's all over this jacket.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and they help us in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Dream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we may never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me, like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way your stories end, I know you've every written line by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind of the sea, like a seed dropped by a slacker in a distant road. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for to clear the air. I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for.
But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of this seems to matter anymore. Like a comet through the orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. And because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed.
We thank Wendy Shriver for her shared memories, Mr. Alex Knopfler for his poem, and we thank Camp Rehoboth Ensemble for their selection. I have been asked to give words of comfort, so I took the liberty to write it down, because if you know anything about a preacher, there are two things that you don't give us. That's a wonderful microphone and time. So I'm going to keep it short and in the pocket. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Pastor Janice Herman, and I have had the privilege of calling Ellen Sinclair my neighbor, but most importantly, my friend for the past year. I would like to thank you all for being here today to celebrate the life of Ellen. The number of you that took the time to gather here is a testament to how important Ellen was in all of our lives. I take this moment to share how I met Ellen and how our meeting impacted my life. I moved next door to Ellen after my house was built. And I was standing outside one day, and Mr. Leo came over, and we chatted for a brief moment. And Mr. Leo told me how much time I had to move in. And when I told him I was a pastor, he says, well, I need you to move in during the week and definitely not on Sunday. So I said, well, thank you, Mr. Leo. And then about 2 or 3 days later, Ellen appeared. And I was standing outside again, and Ellen came over, and she says, hi, I'm your neighbor. And I said, okay, hi, I'm Janice. So we began to talk, and that's where our friendship began. So a week later, I was on my way to a conference, and I could not get my washing machine to work. The house was brand new, and so was the washer and dryer. So I couldn't get it to work, so I went over to my conference, and when I returned, I couldn't get it to work. So I went next door and I knocked. Ellen comes to the door with Batman. Batman is the dog. Batman gets to the door before Ellen every time. And the strength in this dog's legs, and he jumps up on the door, and I am terrified. Ellen says, oh, don't mind him. That's just Batman. He's not going to do anything to you. And I'm standing there like, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, we go in the house, and I say, Ellen, I cannot get my washing machine to work. So she says, well, let me come over and look at it. So she comes over, she looks at it, she says, this is just like mine. And so I said, well, what do I do? She says, well, I don't know. She says, Leo is sleeping. She says, but when he wakes up, I have him come over. So I said, okay. Well, 20 minutes later, there's a knock at the door, and it's Ellen and Leo. And his hair is a little frazzled. And I looked at her and I said, did you wake him up? She said, yes, we got stuff to do. Mr. Leo comes in. He touches. There's nothing worse than somebody really making you look like you have no idea what's going on in your own house. Leo comes in, touches the button for the water. The washing machine shakes. Water starts flowing, and it's done. Well, I'm feeling real crazy right about now. And he kindly says, you just needed to push the button so that the water would come in. I said, oh, thank you. As he's walking out the door, I'm like, yeah. And that was my meeting of Mr. Leo and Ellen. Ellen's character and amazing personality taught me that it costs nothing to say hello. It costs nothing to be kind, nothing to welcome someone into your community that does not look like you. Her passing has taught me that life is short and we really don't have as much time as we think. Her passing has taught me that we must make the best of each day. Take time to love. Take time to forgive. Take time to make a difference in someone's life. I will miss her texting me to see if I'm okay when I miss trash day. Ellen had a way, if I did not take my trash outside, she would text me and say, not being nosy, are you okay over there? And I would reply, I only had one bag of trash. No need to come outside and roll the big blue can out. I will miss texting her when she would take a mental health day and did not open her curtains. My screened-in porch faces her bedroom window. And in the mornings when I opened my blinds, that was my indication that she was gone to work because her blinds would be open. I will miss my friend, but I'm so grateful that I got to meet, to share, and spend time with her. Ellen's kindness shifted my life forever. As we leave this time of shared memories, I ask, how do we keep Ellen alive? We keep her alive in our thoughts, in our hearts, and in the kindness that we render unto strangers. We keep Ellen alive by thinking on the good things, on the good times. We keep her alive by not taking time for granted, but by taking time to live, to laugh, and to listen to some really great music. We will now hear from Camp Rehoboth. This is all of us? We're all going to let us join in with Amazing Grace. Let us stand. Thank you. Eternal God, you have shared with us the life of Ellen Sinclair. Before she was ours, she is yours. For all that Ellen has given us to make us what we are, for that in her which lives and grows in each of us, and for her life that in your love will never end, we give you thanks. As now we offer Ellen Sinclair back into your arms, comfort us in our loneliness, strengthen us in our weakness, and give us courage to face the future unafraid. Draw those of us who remain in this life closer to one another. Make us faithful to serve one another, and give us to know that peace and joy, which is eternal life, through our Creator. Amen. This concludes our memorial service. Go in peace. Amen.
you.